Just connecting to YouTube.
Yeah, it is connected now.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, Raji sir.
Yeah, 2 minutes are there. It is 58.
Yeah,
Should
yeah.
I begin or should I wait?
Sir, we started on YouTube, sir.
Raji sir, we are connected to the YouTube.
Okay.
Sir, you may begin.
Am I visible?
Yes, yes, completely.
Okay. I begin. Welcome to the third day of session 7 of the National Webinar Series titled Knowledge Generation in Education During COVID-19 Pandemic, organized by Bombay Teachers Training College, Mumbai, in collaboration with the Department of Education, University of Mumbai. Today in the morning, we had session 6 on descriptive research. The topic was well explained and illustrated by our very own Dr. Sybil Thomas, Associate Professor, Department of Education, University of Mumbai. Now, the session is number 7 and is on the topic sampling techniques. We have with us Dr. Shirish Pal Singh as the resource person. Welcome, sir, to this national webinar series.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Before we hand over the session to you, I may take the privilege and this opportunity of introducing you to our participants. Dr. Shirish Pal Singh has a double postgraduate degree, master's degree in science with subject of botany and master's degree in education, both from Chaudhry Charan Singh University, Meerut. He has been awarded the gold medal in his MEd. Thereafter, he has been awarded the doctorate degree in education by the HNB Garhwal University, Srinagar. He started teaching in 2005 and had got an opportunity to teach in colleges located at Rajasthan, Dehradun, Saharanpur, and Bhatinda. He has worked as an assistant regional director of Indira Gandhi National Open University from 2011 to 2013. Presently, he is working as an associate professor, Department of Education, Mahatma Gandhi Antarrashtriya Hindi Vishwavidyalaya, which is a central university at Wardha. He has been given responsibilities to head the Department of Psychology as well as Commerce and Management. He has been the member of the Board of Studies for the Department of Education, School of Education, Academic Council, and many more. He has been the coordinator of MEd, MA Education, MPhil, and PhD programs. He is the life member of various prestigious professional organizations such as Council for Teacher Education, Uttarakhand State, Indian Association of Teacher Education, All India Association of Education Research, Global Education and Research Association, World Peace Educational Trust, and he is the founder and secretary of the Learning Community, which is an academic organization. Dr. Shirish Pal Singh is also the chief editor of reputed journals, Learning Community, which is an international journal, Educational Quest, an international journal, as well as Sandarbh, a journal in Hindi, a national journal. He is also a member of the editorial board of various reputed journals, such as International Journal of Social Science and Education, International Journal of Educational Planning and Administration, Global Journal of Educational Administration and Policy Studies, International Journal of Psychology and Counseling. He has to his credit publication of about 25 research papers in English and Hindi. He has authored about 12 books in English and Hindi. One of his books, Higher Education, Quest for Excellence, has been published by Lapp Lambert Academic Publishing, Germany in 2012. He has also contributed articles in edited books and units and have written units in self-learning material. He has actively organized, participated, and presented papers in various seminars, workshops, and conferences of national and international levels. In one of such international seminars, I have met him way back in 2011 at Lucknow, organized by the learning community, of which he is the founder and secretary. He has been invited as a resource person on pertinent topics so diverse, such as teacher education, distance education, technology, e-Gyan Kosh, research paper writing, and other topics related to educational research, personality development, communication skills, innovative education methods, and many more by prestigious institutions, including academic staff colleges and universities across the length and breadth of our country. Sir, we are indeed obliged and honored by your gracious presence in our national webinar series. We welcome you and we thank you at the outset to have devoted time for our seminar. Now, I hand over this session to you, sir.
Should I start?
Yes, sir. Please begin.
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv Jha, for such a nice introduction. And
Thank you, sir.
I would like to thank Professor Sefali R. Pandya, one of my friends since 2009, and the principal of Bombay Teachers Training College, and all the staff and faculty members of both the institution, Mumbai University of Mumbai and Bombay Teachers Training College. And this is indeed a pleasure to be the part of this academic activity in such a pandemic condition. And I'm also thankful to all the listeners, all the viewers who are watching through this YouTube live session. And today the topic allotted to me is sampling technique. And in the previous sessions, you may have discussed various issues related to the research. And in the morning, you have discussed about the review of related literature. Before starting about the sampling technique, I would like to introduce some basic concept. When we start some research, as you are aware that first of all, what we do, we explore that particular area. In that area, we wish to conduct a research. For example, if we are conducting a research on teacher education, we wish to explore all the researches conducted in that field. After exploring that particular area, what we do, we select some pertinent problem related to that area. For example, we are studying the attitude of teachers towards privatization. So when we started exploring that area, we searched particular problem on which we are going to conduct a research. After selecting that problem is actually having different variables. They are associated with each other. And what we do, we want to see the effect of some variable from another variable, or if we want to see the relationship, or we want to see the cause and effect relationship of all these variables. Then what we do, we try to conduct that research in the field. Then when we start conducting that research on that field, we try to conduct that research on such individuals on which we are having the easy access. For example, if we are conducting a research on teacher educators and we want to see the effect of we want to see the attitude of teacher educators towards privatization, then what we do, we select some pertinent area, we select some area of all the teachers available in that area. So what we do, we are not able to conduct research on all the teachers available in that area. What we do then, we select some sample, we select some representative individuals, we select some group of individuals that represent that particular area or that particular population. So sampling or sample is basically a small part, a small portion of that area on which we want to conduct our research. And through this procedure, sampling technique, we select suitable individuals, suitable participants, suitable subjects for conducting our research. As you know, there are two kinds of basic approaches in research. One is the qualitative and another is quantitative. What is the difference between both the approaches? When we conduct the qualitative research, we basically want to see the facts, we want to see the values, we want to see the interactions, actions, and what we do, we basically use the inductive logic in conducting qualitative researches. When we conduct the quantitative researches, what we do, we basically explore some already generated theory, then we want to see the effect, we want to see the implication of that theory in present conditions. And what we do here, we select, we basically approve, we basically verify existing hypothesis, existing theory, and we use the deductive reasoning or deductive logic for conducting the quantitative research. Since there are different approaches we are using for our research, so there are different kind of sampling techniques for all these methods also. So when we are discussing about the sampling and the sampling techniques, we will need to consult about the basic approach of research, basic methodology we are adopting, and how we are proceeding our research. And that is basically depends how we select sample, what kind of sample we are selecting, how many individuals we are selecting. It basically depends on the nature of research, approach of research, and the method of research we basically applied in our research. So now if we discuss about the sampling technique, so what is the sampling technique? Before discussing the sampling technique, we need to discuss some of the basic concepts related to the sample or population. First of all, first component is, or the first component of this is the universe. What is universe? How we define universe? Basically, whatever exists on the planet is a part of universe. What is universe? Whatever exists on the planet. So universe may comprise different populations, like population of plant, population of people, population of individuals, and then anything, whatever exists on this universe is considered as a universe, and universe is basically heterogeneous in nature. So what is universe? Universe, that is all the things exist on the planet is called the universe, and the universe comprise different populations. Many populations are there, like population of plant, population of people, population of individuals. And basically this universe is heterogeneous in nature. There are different kind of individuals may be there. Like we have the population of people. Different kind of peoples are there. There may be the different countries, different individuals belongs to that country. There may be the different caste, there may be the different breed, there may be the different abilities. So population is heterogeneous in nature. They may contain different individuals. Similarly, if we go for the population, first we need to understand what is population. Well-defined small portion of the universe is called population. So when we conduct our research, we need to understand about the population. जनसंख्या, जिसे हम जनसंख्या बोलते हैं. What is this? This is the small portion of the universe is called population. It is a group of individuals who have the same characteristics. They have the same characteristics, but the intensity may differ in all these individuals. There may be the individuals having the different height. There may be the individuals having the different color. There may be the individuals having the different abilities. So if we discuss about the population is the portion of the universe is called population, and is the group of individuals who have the same characteristics in nature. And researcher has to define the population in terms of its characteristics. And what is the purpose of research? And according to that purpose, what we do, we define that population. It can be of small or it can be of large. It depends on the nature of problem. Like if we are discussing about, if we are conducting a research on teachers, like we are conducting, as I given you example earlier, like we are conducting a research to see the attitude of teachers towards privatization. So there may be of different kind of teachers. There may be of primary school teachers, secondary school teachers, or maybe higher education teachers. Or there may be only the teachers having the different levels. So we need to define that particular population. If we are considering research, if we are conducting research on the higher education teachers, we also need to define which state, which country, or which region's teacher you are taking. For example, I'm taking teachers of the universities of nature having the central government funding. So I'm taking central universities teachers. So how we define our population? All the teachers belongs to the central government. All the teachers belong to the central universities comprised as a population in that particular research. So population is the small portion of the universe having the similar characteristics in the nature, and it may be of the small, it may be of the large, and depends on how you are defining that population. For your research, you need to define your population. As I have given you one example, that if you are conducting a research on the teachers, you need to define on what kind of teacher, on what level of teacher, and how many teachers you are considering as a population. For example, I may consider the teachers of Nagpur district. I may consider the teachers of Vidarbha region. I may consider the teachers of Maharashtra region. So it depends on me how I am defining my population. Okay, so when you see the population, when we decided about our population, we need to decide our sampling frame. Sampling frame is the part of population. Whatever we have decided that we are conducting research on that particular population, and out of that population, that listing all the members of the population in that particular population is called frame or sampling frame. So then what researcher do? Researcher may have frame or may not have frame for selecting sample. It depends on the situation. If situation is clear that you are having the list of all the individuals in that particular population, you may create a frame for that particular research. So sampling frame is the listing all the members of the population in that particular under that particular population, and it is also called target population. We also say that it is a target population. listing all the individuals, arranging all the individual as per some existing norms. So what we do, we select the individuals to whom we can directly give some list, we can directly arrange them, and out of that list we can select individuals. So part of population listed for the sampling purpose is called sampling frame. So that frame, if you have the definite population, you may arrange a frame, or you may not have frame, because if you are not having that list of population, you may not have the basically the characteristic of that population, or it may be that you are not having the access to that population. So it is also called target population. What is sample? Out of the sampling frame, what we do, we select a representative portion of that particular population. Representative sample, representative portion of that population is called sample. And a sample is a subgroup of target population. When you are having the sampling frame, if you are not having sampling frame, it may not be the subgroup or representative of that particular problem. If we understand this process, we can define like that. If we are doing research, given you example on the teacher's attitude towards privatization, if you have listed all the individuals in your sampling frame, all the teachers in your sampling frame, and you are selecting only 50 teachers out of these 500, 5,000 or 50,000 teachers, then your target population is all the teachers listed under some rule or under some document. So it may be the government document, it may be the private agency document. If you are selecting the private college teachers, then you can take out the list of the private institutions. Then you can arrange all the teachers according to some rule, according to area, according to the rural, urban, according to the funding agency, whatever you have decided. So you are taking some small representation of that population, that is called sample, and sample is a subgroup of target population if you have that sampling frame. Then what is sampling? Sampling refers to the procedure of selecting sample from that particular population. Then what you do, you select sample from that particular population. And the procedure of selecting that sample is called sampling. What is sampling? Selecting individuals from the population. And how you are selecting? You are selecting through different methodology, different criteria are there. You can take, select individual by taking different criteria, by taking different techniques. And the sampling techniques, we generally, if broadly defined, there are two kinds of sampling techniques are available. One is probability sampling, and another is the non-probability sampling. So whatever we have discussed yet, that we have to select some sample for conducting our research. Due to the time, due to the money, and many various reasons, you need to conduct a research on some representative sample. Then what you want to do, you want to do the research on that sample, and you want to generalize the results on that particular population. So because your conditions are such, you can't select all the individuals for conducting your research. So what you do, you select sample, you select individuals from that particular population, or that those individuals are having the representation, ability of representation. Then what you do, you select samples according to the different techniques. There are two basic techniques. One is probability sampling technique, and the another is non-probability sampling. What is probability sampling techniques? In probability sampling techniques, what researchers do? Researchers select individuals from the population who are representative of that population. And probability sampling technique is to be used only when it is possible to list all the individuals of population, all the members of the population, when we have basically frame of that particular population. If we are not having frame, then we are not able to use the probability sampling. So probability sampling means when we have such procedures in which there is a chance of representation, and every individual selected for that sample has equal chance of being selected or being rejected in that particular procedure. And it is possible, probability sampling is possible only when you have sampling frame. If you are not having the sampling frame, you will not be able to do the probability sampling, because you need to select some criteria for selecting probability sampling, and that criteria demands what that criteria demands. That criteria demand at least that population should be listed as per some pre-decided norms. There are different methods of probability sampling, like random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified random sampling, cluster sampling, and multi-stage sampling. So when we do the probability sampling, we use different kind of methods for selecting sample through this technique, through the probability sampling techniques. As I have discussed you earlier, there are two kind of approaches for conducting research. One is qualitative and another is quantitative approach. When we are conducting the quantitative researches, we basically use this probability sampling technique. Okay, so, and second condition is the population should have at least some list, or we should have at least frame for that population. Or we can say we should have target population for selecting our sample. So this is the assumption. These are the basic conditions for probability sampling technique. What are the basic conditions? You should select sample from the individuals. Those are listed according to some rule. There is a sampling frame. We have target population, and we are conducting quantitative researches. Then what we do, we select the probability sampling techniques. Under these 5 techniques, there are some differences according to the nature of problem, according to the nature of population. Then what is random sampling? If we define random sampling, that is the we also say this the simple random sampling. Random sampling is useful when the population is homogeneous. We are having the similar kind of individuals in our population, and not widely spread. That is not widely spread, because we have to select sample from that particular population according to some methods which don't allow us for selecting individuals through the widely spread individuals, widely spread population. So the researchers select the participants or units. Two things are there: participants or units for the sample, so that any individual has an equal chance of being selected or equal chance of being rejected. Both conditions are there. Then, and who will be the representative of that particular population? That should be the representative of the particular population. So in the simple random sampling, there are two conditions. Your population should be homogeneous, and your population should not be the widely spread. And the researchers select the participant or units for the sample so that any individual has equal chance of being selection or being rejection, or that will be the representative of that population. There are different ways of selecting sample through random sampling. What we can do, we can use the random number table. You may see that different books are available in which random number table is available in the back side. Or you may use the lottery method, you may use the fishbowl draw, you may use the computer generated random numbers also for selecting individuals by using this simple random sampling technique. And basically for quantitative researches, where we want to conduct some research on the individual, they are homogeneous, they are not widely spread, and we need the representative sample for that particular population. So we select this through simple random sampling. We select individuals from the population by using random number table, by using the computer generated random table, by fishbowl draw, or by the rotary method. It depends on you how you are selecting. So if we see the advantages of random sampling, it represents the target population and eliminates the biases. So through this simple random sampling, we have the possibilities of generalization. If we are conducting research by selecting a sample through simple random sampling, we can generalize our results for that particular population. Reason is because we are getting representative population, and here because we are selecting blindly, we are selecting through various different techniques, we eliminate the biases of selection. So if you see the disadvantages of this random sampling, basically it is difficult to use when the population is too large and widely spread. When the population is too large, it is not possible to select a sample because you need to conduct some lottery, or you need to conduct some fishbowl draw, or using simple random sampling. So you can't select individuals in bulk. You need to select individuals. You need to select the units or subject individually. So it is difficult to use simple random sampling when your population is too large, and it requires numbering of each individual or each subject in the population. If numbering is not available, it means if the frame is not well defined and not available, you will not be able to use the simple random sampling. If we are doing some survey, if we are doing some quantitative researches, if we want to generalize the results of our research on a large population, then what we do, we basically select sample through simple random sampling. And what we do, we conduct our research on that particular sample. That sample is representative of that particular population. And after conducting our research, what we receive our result, what we do, we generalize our results on our population. And the next method of this sampling technique, this called the purposive sampling, is systematic sampling. What is systematic sampling? It is to be used only if the given population is logically homogeneous. Because systematic sample units are uniformly distributed over the population. Here, you are not selecting individual through some lottery or through some draw or through some random number table. You decide some way to pick out some individuals of your defined population. In this procedure, we basically use the nth individual or site in the population until we reach our desired number and our desired sample, basically. So in the systematic sampling technique, what we do, we basically use this technique when your given population is logically homogeneous. Even we can see your population is arranged according to some definite law. And what we do, we select nth individual from your population. How you decide that nth individual? First of all, if you want to select, first of all, we decide how many individuals we select in our sample. For example, you want to select 400 participants, 400 subjects for conducting your research. Then what you do, you need to define your target population, the sampling frame of your research. And suppose that population is having 10,000 individuals or any other number like 4,000, 6,000, 8,000. Suppose your population is having, your target population is having 4,000, 6,000, 8,000 or 10,000 individuals, and you are selecting you wish to select only 400 individuals, 400 subjects for your research. Then what you do, simply you just calculate, you just divide the target population by your desired number of sample. Like suppose your target population is 4,000 and you need 400 individuals, then you divide 4,000 by 400, then what is the number is 10. So you can select the 10th individuals in your pre-decided numbered population, and that number, which number you are starting, it depends on you. You may decide to start by the serial number 1, you may decide to start by the serial number 2, or you may decide to start by the serial number 3. It depends on the researcher, or you may start blindly by picking out any number. Like we started calculating the 10th individuals, that it starts from the 12th individuals. The person who is listed at the 12th number, we consider that as a single. We consider that as the number 1. And after that, every 10th individual we will select for our sample. So in the systematic sampling technique, what we do, we select the nth term for our sample, and we decide the number through which we start our sampling. This systematic sampling technique is basically simple to use, and it allows the researcher to add a degree or a process into the random selection of subject, because you'd have to decide only the nth number. Then after deciding that nth number, you can easily pick out the individuals from your pre-decided population or pre-decided target population. And through this sampling technique, we selected sampling usually that our selected sample usually represent the population. Because we are not aware, about the biases in this. Because we can select anyone, we can select anyone systematically by using the nth term, and that nth term may be the blindly decided, or maybe decided by the researcher. So it is simple to use, and it allows researcher to add a degree or process into the random selection of subjects, and that represent the population. If we see some disadvantages of this systematic random sampling, the process of selection can interact with the hidden periodic trait within the population. That is the major issue of systematic sampling. suppose that fifth individual is having some issues about some psychological or some any other attribute, and by the chance error, every fifth individuals are having the more or less same situation, then your selected sample will be biased. You'll be inclined to some specific characteristics. So when we have decided, we have selected that nth term, it's sometimes difficult to maintain the representation of that particular population. So by selecting this nth term, we need to at least see whatever we are selecting should be free of some inclination, some biases should not be there when we are selecting that particular nth term. So systematic sampling is a kind of random sampling. We use in the quantitative researches. We decide our nth term, we arrange our individuals according to some pre-decided law, and we select that nth term in our research. The next sampling technique is the stratified random sampling. Mostly we use in the education researches the stratified random sampling, because there are many populations which are heterogeneous in nature and they are widely spread. But you need to select the individuals that represent all the characteristics, all the attributes available in the population, and you need that all such abilities or attributions should be available in your population, in your sample. Then what you need to do, you select the stratified random sampling. Here in this sampling technique, researchers divide or stratify the population on some specific characteristics. For example, gender. If you are having population and the population is having the male and female, so in your research you need some certain number of male and certain number of female. What you have to do, you just stratify your population into two strata. One is male and one is female. Then according to your choice, you can select individuals or subjects from that strata. So using sample random sampling technique, you can select individuals from each strata or each category. So what we do in this stratified random sampling, we arrange some strata according to the nature, according to the ability, according to the attribute. For example, gender ho sakta hai, or it may be the IQ. You need some individuals of high IQ, you need some individuals of some average IQ. You are having the individuals from some below average IQ. And you need individuals in your sample having all the abilities, like all the levels, like some individuals from the high IQ, some individuals from the average IQ, some individuals from the below average IQ. So, ऐसी conditions when you want to, when you have some specific characteristics, some specific dichotomy, then you need some sample from each of such individuals. You select a stratified random sampling technique. And through this stratified random sampling technique, you can select individuals that should be the that may be the representative of that particular population. And it may be of two kinds, proportionate and the disproportionate. Suppose you wish to select 100 individuals from your sample, from your population, and your population is around 500 individuals. You have decided that these 500 individuals are your population. Then what you do, you want to select only 100 individuals from out of these 500, selected a target population. And out of this 500, suppose 300 male hai, 200 females hai. Then what you do, you select, you want to give the actual representation of two male and female. Then what you do, there is a ratio of 3:2. Then what you do when you are selecting 100 individuals, you give 3 out of 5 weightage to the male and 2 out of 5 weightage to the female. Then what you do, you will select the 3 portion of male and 2 portion of female. So when you are giving the equal representation in your sample according to the your population, what representation is actually available in this population, according to you are giving this proportionate sampling in your selected sample, then you use the proportionate sampling method, stratified random sampling method. When you are not aware of about how many and what is the representation of the individuals in the population, and you select randomly, then you may use the disproportionate stratified random sampling. For example, you are not aware about the population of male and female out of 500 individuals. You may select any 100 individuals out of 500 target population. So when there is no need, when you are not giving the preference, when you are giving the weightage to the proportion of individuals available in that population, you can use the disproportionate stratified random sampling technique. So if we see the advantages of this stratified random sampling, it provides greater precision. A stratified random sample often require a small sample will save money because we are representing to a strata, the well-defined strata, because that strata is having the similar abilities. And what you are doing, you are giving representation to that particular strata, and that strata may be 1, 2, 3, 5, or what shown, whatever you have decided. And through this stratified random sampling, one can generalize from the results obtained. Through we have given the weightage to our strata, to our individual's ability. We have given weightage to the attributes of individuals. So we can generalize from the result obtained by using this stratified random sampling technique. And if you are using this stratified random sampling, there may be some disadvantages, like it is not useful when the population can't be adjusted, partitioned, when there is no clear-cut dichotomy, when you can't draw a line between two groups. For example, there may be some people, they consider themselves to the rural area, and there may be some area people they are consider themselves to the urban area. And there may be some individual that belongs to the rural area and they are staying in the urban area. So when you ask them कि आपको किस कैटेगरी में हम रखें, तो हो सकता है कि वो इंडिविजुअल्स अपने आप को कहें कि we are urban, some people may say that we are rural. तो वहां पर कोई एक डायकोटमी ऐसी नहीं है जो कि दो भागों में उस पॉपुलेशन को, दो स्टेटा में उस पॉपुलेशन को डिवाइड कर दे. In such situations, it is really rather difficult to stratify individuals. Even though when we are using the IQ test, there are different kind of IQ tests are available, and all the IQ tests are having different kind of range. Some IQ tests providing the age norm, some IQ tests are available on the deviation IQ. We can say the age norms and the point norms. So their values may differ, according to according to that norms, individuals may differ from one category to another category. So when whatever you have decided, whatever the strata you have decided, that strata is not following the clear-cut dichotomy norms, then it is always difficult to use the stratified random sampling. So the next sampling technique is the cluster sampling, widely used in the social surveys. And what is this cluster sampling technique? It is useful when the population is widely spread and normally divided into well-defined clusters of groups. A cluster should be a small-scale representation of the total population, or it may be a big-scale representation of the total population. A random sampling technique is then used to select individuals out of that particular cluster. So here, in this particular sampling technique, it is basically two-stage sampling technique. Firstly, what we do, we select cluster. And when we have selected the cluster, we select individuals out of that particular cluster by using random sampling technique. So in this clustered sampling techniques, what we do, initially, we select clusters of individuals. Then we select individuals out of that particular cluster. For example, like Maharashtra may have 50 districts, and all the districts are having 3-4 blocks. All the blocks are having 40, 30, 40, 50 villages. So initially what we do, out of Maharashtra, we select 3 districts, 3 cluster of districts. Out of these 3 cluster of districts, we can select 5 blocks. And out of these 5 blocks, we can select 10 villages. And out of these 10 villages, we can select individuals of those category and those characteristics that is basically you have decided to select. For example, you are selecting the school teachers. So you have selected 10 villages, then you need to select the teachers of all these 10 villages, working in all these 10 villages through the simple random sampling technique. So here in this case, when we are using the cluster sampling, what we do, we basically initially divide our widely spread population into the different cluster on the basis of some pre-decided norms. Out of that, we select some cluster. Again, we select some cluster, and finally, what we do, we select the final cluster, and out of that particular cluster, we select individuals by using simple random sampling technique. So through this cluster sampling, we select individuals by using different clusters. So if we see the advantage of this cluster sampling technique, it is most economical form of sampling, as larger sample for a similar fixed cost, because you need to generalize your results on a larger population. You need to see the problem, the research problem in larger perspective. Then you wish to generalize your results on a huge population, on a big area, then you select sample through the cluster sampling technique. And the disadvantage of this cluster sampling technique is the sample may not reflect the diversity of the population. As you see in this particular case of Maharashtra, there are different reasons. There is Vidarbha, there is Marathwada, there is North Maharashtra, there is South Maharashtra. And when we are selecting the cluster, by chance error, we have selected 3 states. We have selected the 3 states Oh, sorry, we have selected the 3 districts, and by chance errors, all the 3 districts we have selected from the Vidarbha region, or we have selected 2 districts from the Vidarbha region and 1 district from the North Maharashtra. Then what will be the situation? There is no representation of the Mumbai region. There is no representation of the South Maharashtra region. There is no representation of the Marathwada region. So in such cases, when there is a diversity in the population, through this cluster sampling, it is sometimes difficult to represent all the characteristics of that particular population in our sample. So this is the basic disadvantage of cluster sampling. However, when we wish to conduct a large scale study, we should use the cluster sampling. Mostly in the social surveys, in the high scale surveys, we use cluster sampling. The next sampling is the multi-stage sampling. Sometimes some people, like Critchwell is saying in his book, but he's saying that they're saying the cluster and multi-stage both are similar sampling techniques. They are not different. But many people are saying that multi-stage sampling is having the little difference from the cluster sampling. What is this multi-stage sampling? When we are having more than 2 stages, when with the process of selecting sample is having the more than 2 stages, we are saying we are using the multi-stage sampling technique. Actually, it is the complex sampling technique. It is the complex form of the cluster sampling technique in which we involve more than 2 stages. In cluster sampling, in cluster sampling, we 2-stage sampling technique. 2-stage, like say, first we select some cluster, then finally out of this cluster we select sample through the simple random sample. तो वहां पर 2 स्टेज में हम सैंपल सेलेक्ट करते हैं, बट हियर इन दिस कंडीशन वी सेलेक्ट सैंपल आउट ऑफ मोर देन 2 स्टेजेस. फॉर एग्जांपल के लिए द सेम एग्जांपल इज हियर, लाइक महाराष्ट्र की हम बात कर रहे हैं, वी आर सेलेक्टिंग सैंपल्स फ्रॉम द महाराष्ट्र. What we initially do, we have selected 3 districts. Out of 3 districts, we selected 7 blocks, and out of 7 blocks, we selected 10 villages. So we have finally selected the 10 village cluster of 10 villages, and you need to select the individuals. You need to select the teachers out of these selected 10 villages. So if you want to give the equal representation, you want to give the representation to all kind of teachers, like you want to select the higher secondary level teachers, you want to select the primary level teachers, you want to select the middle school level teachers, or you may have the different criteria, like you wish to select the male teachers or you wish to select the female teachers, or any other criteria you may have, like you are selecting the graduate teacher or you want to select the postgraduate teachers also. So what you can do, you can arrange your population according to some pre-decided criteria into some stratas. You arrange our stratas like we have arranged male teachers and the female teachers strata. We can arrange high school teachers, senior secondary teachers. We may arrange the strata according to the SC teachers, OBC teachers, or the UR teachers. So whatever you have decided to select, to give the representation of all the individuals into your sample, so you can arrange strata according to your pre-decided norms. So what you have done here, initially you have adopted the cluster sampling technique for selecting a cluster. Then what you have done, you have arranged some strata. You arrange some strata on some pre-decided norms, and then finally what you will do, you select individuals from each strata according to your pre-decided norm. Like you want to select male, you want to select female. So out of the male strata, you select some male, and out of the female strata, you select female. So, and it may be the proportionate level, or it may be the disproportionate level, as you have decided. So here you can see there are 3 stages. One is selecting sample through cluster, then arranging strata, then out of strata we use simple random sampling for selecting individuals or our subjects for our research. So this is called multi-stage sampling techniques. It is normally more accurate than cluster sampling of same size. That is the reason we use the multi-stage sampling technique. Reason is, if इसी लेवल की क्लस्टर सैम्पलिंग यदि हम यूज कर रहे हैं तो उससे ज्यादा एक्यूरेट रिजल्ट आपको मल्टी स्टेज सैम्पलिंग से मिलते हैं। इसलिए कई बार रिकमेंड किया जाता है कि when your population is widely distributed and you need to give the proportionate distribution to all the individuals in your sample, you should adopt this multi-stage sampling technique. So these are the methods of probability sampling technique. We may revise in 1 minute whatever we have discussed yet. हमने बात की कि what is sample? Sample is the part or the portion of population. Why we are selecting sample? For due to the various reasons we are not able to consider when we are not able to conduct research on entire population, and we need the results that may be generalized on the population, then what you do, you select some sample of that particular population. And for selecting that sample, you need definite population. The definite population, that is the arrangement of that population according to some pre-decided law, it's called the sampling frame. And out of that sampling frame, you basically select your sample. And you're selecting your sample, you can use 2 different strategies, 2 different techniques. One is probability sampling and another is the non-probability sampling. In the probability sampling techniques, when we are conducting the quantitative researches, mostly I'm saying, you can adopt this probability sampling technique. There are different methods of probability sampling technique. One is the simple random sampling. Here, you select individuals from the population through the random number table, through the fishbowl door, through the lottery method, or you can use the systematic sampling technique, where what you do, you select a sample according to the nth term decided by some pre-decided norms. Then what you do, you can select the sample from the stratified random sampling, where the some stratas are available, pre-decided stratas. You select sample according to the strata, according to the your choice. Then cluster sampling, when there is a widely distributed population is there, and you want to conduct research on the large scale, you can select sample through cluster sampling technique. And finally, there is multi-stage sampling technique, where you are doing the same procedure as you have done in the cluster sampling, but here finally you combine different techniques, initially cluster sampling, then the stratified random sampling, then finally the simple random sampling for selecting your participants, your subjects. Now we are going to discuss about the non-probability sampling. What is non-probability sampling? Non-probability sampling is to be used when, if it is impossible to list all the members of the population, and when we say that frame is not available, when the sampling frame is not available, and the researcher, I will give your answer to your question after I complete this discussion. Okay, so the researchers select individuals because they are available. They are available, so we need, as they are available, we are selecting them. So because of their convenience, because of they are representing some characteristics that investigators seek to study. Because basically they are having that characteristic, they're having that attribute, they're having that ability what investigators seek to study. So the known probability sampling is to be used only when it is not possible to list all the individuals, or maybe you are not aware about all the population of that particular attribute. So what researcher will do? Researchers select individuals as per their convenience. And why this convenience? Convenience इसलिए नहीं क्योंकि इन researcher की convenience है, because convenience इसलिए क्योंकि conditions ऐसी हैं, because you don't know about the population, you don't know about the proposed sample, even you have some restrictions for using probability sampling. या हो सकता है जिस करेक्टरिस्टिक को आप स्टडी करना चाहते हो वो पॉपुलेशन में वाइडली स्प्रेड नहीं है. Then what we do, we select non-probability sampling techniques. Here in this non-probability sampling techniques, the researchers select participants because they are available, they are easily available, they are conveniently available, and they are representing that particular characteristic. In that characteristic, researcher is interested, or researcher wish to conduct research on that particular characteristic. There are many methods are available under this known probability sampling technique. But in education researches, basically, we focus on 4 definite methods. One is purposive sampling technique, one is convenience sampling, one is quota sampling, and one is snowball sampling. बहुत सारे और भी methods हैं, but in education research basically we are using these methods. उनमें से भी basically purposive and convenience sampling we use for conducting our education researches. Mostly I'm saying, what is purposive sampling? It is the sampling technique where sample is selected based on the knowledge of a population and purpose of the study. That is important because there is a purpose behind that selection. So that's why we are saying it as a purposive sampling. The subjects are selected because of some characteristics, and it is appropriate for qualitative researches, and it is easy to use too. And here, when we select the sample through the purposive sampling technique, generalization is possible to similar subjects only. जिन व्यक्तियों पर, जिन सब्जेक्ट्स पर, जिन इंडिविजुअल्स पर हमने स्टडी की है, उन्हीं लोगों पर जनरलाइजेशन पॉसिबल होता है. Many times we say that we are using the purposive sampling method in the qualitative researches, but there should be some basic characteristics of that particular sample, like that fulfill the purpose of your study. For example, if you are selecting individuals having the learning disabilities, so what is your purpose? To study the individuals with the learning disabilities. So you will select the individuals having learning disabilities. If you wish to conduct a research on some individuals, they are visually impaired. So what you will do? You will select individual, those are visually impaired. So you select individual according to the purpose of the study, and you know about them. Because if you're selecting learning disabled students, you can conduct some tests, or you can get information from some schools or some other individuals that these people are having the learning disabilities. So we select all those participants because they fulfill their purpose. वो आपका purpose पूरा कर रहा है. That's why we are saying this as purposive sampling. Sometimes in the quantitative researches also, we use the purposive sampling techniques. What about the quasi-experimental research? Mostly we write that when we are conducting experimental researches, mostly I have seen in the in PhD thesis that people are writing that I'm using the quantitative research, I'm using the experimental research, and I'm using simple random sampling. But when you are using the quasi-experimental research, what we do? We use this purposive sampling because randomization is not possible there. You are selecting individuals. For example, you are selecting people teachers of two institutions, through which on one group you are teaching with some innovative method, you are teaching on another group, that is control group, you are teaching with some traditional teaching method. So your purpose is to teach individuals to see the effect of teaching method on some selected individuals. So your purpose is to select pupil teachers from two institutions in which one institution we do the intervention, we use some innovative teaching method. On another institution, what we do, we teach through the traditional method. So that is fulfilling your purpose. So what you do here, you can select sample through the purposive sampling method. So purposive sampling is basically used when there is that is fulfilling your purpose and you are knowing about them. So in the quantitative research, mostly in the qualitative researches, we are using the purposive sampling technique, and sometimes in the quantitative researches too, we are using purposive sampling techniques. And the next method or next technique of selecting sample is convenient sampling. That is the basic method of selecting sample. When you are using no pre-decided norms, you are selecting sample as per your convenience. And the convenient sampling is a kind of sampling technique where subjects are selected because of ease of their availability and proximity to the researcher, because they are available easily and they are nearby to the researcher. And the convenient sampling is mostly used, and therefore the sample may not be sufficiently representative of the entire population. जब आपको ये लगता है कि we need to conduct a research on some teachers, and if you see that there is no possibility to go into the field, and you are selecting teachers who are easily available to you or who are nearby to you, use the convenient sampling. In both the approaches, in the quantitative approaches and in the qualitative approaches, you can use the convenient sampling technique. Why we are using this convenient sampling technique? Because you know that we have to conduct a research, and it is not possible us to go beyond our limits, go beyond our area, go beyond our jurisdiction. So whatever is available, we can conduct research. For example, in this pandemic condition, if we are doing some research in this pandemic condition, like we wish to see the attitude of teachers toward the online education. towards the webinars organized by different institutions. So what you will do, you will not select sample randomly, because it is not possible to collect data through by face-to-face or by visiting the institution. What you will do, you can create a Google form. You can share that Google form in different WhatsApp group, different email, or on the Facebook or any other social media account. Then anyone, any individual consider as a teacher can fill that form and can submit automatically to you. So here what we are using the convenience sampling. We are conducting research, but we are selecting individuals as per our convenience because they are easily available. So this is the convenience sampling. This is the next technique is the quota sampling. There is another kind of non-probabilistic sampling technique. Here we select sample as per our convenience, but we provide representation to the individuals are available in that particular population. As we have mentioned, that is a kind of non-probability sampling, where researchers select samples or subjects according to some fixed quota. Like, I may decide to select sample according to the caste. So what I will do, I will ST category, or I select individual from the UR category. So when we are selecting individuals according to some pre-decided quota, to provide that particular quota to that our selected sample, we are using the quota sampling. For example, we are selecting individuals as per our convenience. It is okay, but if we see that our population is having 50% of male individuals, 50% of female individuals, what we will do, we will provide quota to the female. 50% of our total selected sample will be male, and 50% of our selected sample will be female. So when we are giving some representation, like we are giving in the stratified random sampling. So when we are giving the representation, then we use this quota sampling technique. We are providing quota according to the certain pre-decided norms, some fixed criteria, some already decided criteria. Okay. And the next sampling technique under the non-probability sampling is snowball sampling. What is this snowball sampling technique? In this sampling, researcher asks participants to identify others to become member of the sample, because researcher is not aware about the sample. Researcher is not aware about that particular abilities, individuals having that particular abilities, because they are hard to locate or very rare or limited to a very small subgroup of individuals. Because researcher is not able to find out those individuals. What he will do is select one or two individuals having the same category characteristics. So it helps in locating hidden population and people with a specific population. That is, for example, homeless individuals, like user of illegal drugs, like street children. Because being a researcher, we are not aware about that particular individuals or that particular group of individuals. For example, like I'm a teacher educator, we all are teacher educator here. Then someone wishes to conduct a research in the Wardha district, in the Wardha city on teacher educator. then he don't know how many teacher educators are located in this the city. So he may come to me, वो मेरे पास आ सकता है, then he can ask, or he or she can ask that he can ask data for through me, and also he can ask that please suggest some other teacher educators. Then because I am a teacher educator, I know how many other teacher educators are available here in Varda. So I can easily provide numbers or contact details to that individual, because we are aware about the similar characteristic individuals. Like हम कह सकते हैं ना कि एक सिटी में हम जा रहे हैं, उस सिटी में किसी एक पर्टिकुलर कास्ट के लोगों को यदि आपको सिलेक्ट करना है, उस सिटी में यदि पर्टिकुलर इंडिविजुअल्स को आपको सिलेक्ट करना है, तो आप क्या कर सकते हैं, देन यू कैन सेलेक्ट सम इंडिविजुअल्स लाइक होमलेस, you wish to select some homeless individuals, so you can go to them, you can ask them, please tell some other individuals also, those are not having home, those are not having their those are having same characteristics, so he can suggest you such kind of individuals. Like in some other conditions also, like when the people users of illegal drugs, you will not be able to find out the individuals using the illegal drugs. But when you are able to find out a single person, you can make report, you can make a report to that particular individual, and you can find out other individuals having the same characteristic. So in this snowball sampling, the researcher asks participants to identify other to become the sample of that study, because researcher is not available. Researchers don't know about the characteristic or individuals of that particular ability. So here, members, the initial sample, like if you wish to conduct a research on some doctor, मान लिया कि आप किसी सिटी में जाना चाह रहे हैं, आप ईएनटी स्पेशलिस्ट को दिखाना चाह रहे हैं, और आप चाहते हैं कि ईएनटी स्पेशलिस्ट डॉक्टर्स पर मैं ये रिसर्च कंडक्ट करूं, तो आप किसी भी एक ईएनटी के पास, स्पेशलिस्ट के पास चले जाइए, ही कैन गिव यू एड्रेस एंड कॉन्टैक्ट डिटेल ऑफ अदर ईएनटी एक्सपर्ट्स. So that is very easy to find out because they are in touch, but we are not, we may not be able to find out easily. So in slow poll sampling techniques, we find out initial sample, and out of that initial sample, we tell our initial sample to provide information of another other sample or other members of that particular community. So these are the non-probability sampling techniques method. Mostly in the qualitative researches, we use this non-probability sampling technique. Here in the many quantitative researches too, we use non-probability sampling techniques. If we decide to select a sample, what are the basic requirement, or what are the points to be kept in mind while selecting a sample? We are discussing some of the points, like the subjects of the study should be clearly described, and the description should be specific and detailed. Initially, when we are selecting sample through the purposive or some well-defined methodology, we should describe our sample, the proposed sample, what category, what characteristic the proposed sampling is having. Okay. Then the next is the population of the study should be clearly defined. If you are not able to define your population, that will create issues, that will create selection issues to you, because if you are not aware about your population, you will not be able to provide the actual representation to your population. The sampling procedure should be clearly described, and should be described at the starting also. When we are saying na, when we are making proposal, जब हम proposal बनाते हैं, then initially हम describe करते ही हैं कि हमें किस sampling procedure को use करना है. Despite some research methods, like in grounded theory, in a grounded theory, we say the Adharit Siddhant, you are not able to define the sampling procedure because there we are using the theoretical sampling technique. What is the theoretical sampling technique? There, in this grounded theory method, what we do, we select sample intentionally and according to our need, according to our requirement. And we have not decided early, at the beginning of our research how many individuals we will select and what will be the representation of that sample. Because in the grounded theory, we select 5 to 25 individuals. And the decision about selecting the next individual depends on the data provided by the first individual. So if you have decided that I will select 25 individuals, and initially you have selected one individual, you have conducted an interview on that particular individual, then you get the data, you analyze that data, then you have decided that I need 2 more individuals to discuss upon that issue. Then you have decided to select 2 more individuals. You select data out of the on these 2 selected individuals. Then again you analyze data. Then you decide that I need 2 more individuals to clarify the issue. Then again you will decide 2 more individuals. So where we have not decided the how many sample we'll select, what will the procedure of selecting sample. In some cases, in some exceptional cases, like in grounded theory, for all the other research methods, you should decide the procedure and the sampling technique you will use while conducting your research. And the selection of subjects should be free of biases. Sometimes people consider, तो कहते हैं कई बार कि नॉन प्रोबेबिलिटी सैम्पलिंग है तो इसमें तो बायसेस होगा ही, सब्जेक्टिविटी होगी ही. ये जरूरी नहीं है. इट इज नॉट ऑलवेज नेसेसरी कि पर्पसिव सैम्पलिंग है या जो आपका नॉन प्रोबेबिलिटी सैम्पलिंग है उनमें बायसेस हों ही. इफ यू आर selecting individuals according to certain pre-decided norms without your personal involvement, and that sample may be of the maybe free of the biases. So whether you are selecting sample through this probability sampling or whether you're selecting sample through the non-probability sampling, your sample, your selected individual should be the free of biases. And the selection procedure should be appropriate for the problem being studied. As I said, as I discussed you earlier, it depends on the method or depends on the approach you are using. If you are using quantitative approach, you have to select your individuals, your participants according to some method. Those are appropriate for the quantitative researches. If you are selecting individuals or participants for the ethnography or some qualitative research, you may select participants from purposive sampling technique. So it is your research approach or method that leads you for selecting the appropriate sampling technique. And there should be an adequate number of subjects. आप aware होंगे कि there are 2 kinds of sample, the large sample and the small sample. What we are saying, the large sample, sample which is having more than 30 individuals, consider under the large sample. And the small sample is when we are having individuals less than 30 in our sample, is considered as a small sample. But when you are considering, when you are conducting researches like grounded theory. The sample of 10 individuals may be sufficient. When you are conducting like ethnography, the sample of 20 individuals may be sufficient. When you are conducting case study, the sample of 1 individual may be sufficient. When you are conducting the phenomenology, the group of 5 individuals may be sufficient for that particular problem. When you are conducting the narrative analysis, the group of 5 to 7 individuals may be sufficient. But when you are conducting the survey, it may be possible that a sample of 200 individuals may not be sufficient. Sample of 500 individuals may be not be sufficient. When you are conducting the experimental researches, the group of 40 students may be sufficient. And another thing, जब आप 40 students का group लेंगे for conducting experimental researches, ये इस बात पर भी depend करेगा कि what statistical techniques you are using for analyzing data. Like if we are using the two-way or two-way ANOVA or ANCOVA, there is an assumption that each cell should be at least having 10 to 20 individuals. हर सेल में जब आप एनालाइज करेंगे तो हर सेल में 10 से 15 20 लोग कम से कम होने चाहिए कि अच्छे रिजल्ट्स यदि आपको चाहिए तो. Then not only your method, not only your research approach, even your statistical operations also decide the number of individuals in your research. So you need also consult what techniques of stats you are using for analyzing your data. So there should be an adequate number of subjects in your sample. When you are selecting sample, you should give the weightage to your population as per some pre-decided norm, as per the method you have selected for conducting research, and as per the method of statistical operations. So these are the points to be kept in mind when we are selecting our sample. One most important heading or discussion should be on the sampling errors. When we are selecting sample, we are using the appropriate sampling techniques, but sometimes it may happen that your sample is having biases. Your sample is not selected properly. Then what will be happen? Then your results may not be appropriate. Okay, so the sampling error is the error caused by collecting data from a sample instead of the whole population. Okay, then sampling error is the error caused by the collecting data from a sample instead of whole population. As we are saying, we are not able to conduct research on the population. We select sample representative of that population. Either we are selecting sample through the this probability sampling technique, or either through the non-probability sampling technique. Your sample should be the representative of your population. But when your sample is not, basically representing your population, we say we are having the sampling errors. So most frequent cause of sampling error is a biased sampling procedure. For example, you are conducting a survey research and you have selected sample through purposive sampling method. If you are conducting a quantitative research, then you have selected sample through cluster sampling. It may be. And when you are using the biased sampling procedure, you are not using the appropriate sampling procedure for selecting a sample. So it is possible. And another possible cause of sampling error is chance error. कई बार ऐसा होता है कि we have decided our procedure, we have selected sample correctly, but it may be the chance, ऐसा हो सकता है कि हमने क्या किया कि एक दो क्लासेस हमें सेलेक्ट करनी थी for conducting an experiment. What we do, we have selected one class, like we have selected 9th A and we have selected 9th B for conducting our experiment. And by chance, 9th A is having students having good IQ, good results, or there may be the individuals in the 9th A are good in their performance, and the 9th B individuals are not this much of good in their performance. And we are conducting experiment on 9th A or maybe on 9th B. जब हम रिजल्ट्स देखेंगे, कंपेयर करेंगे, तो हमारे जो रिजल्ट्स हैं वो अब देखेंगे आप, तो उसमें एरर्स आने की संभावनाएं होंगी. क्यों? क्योंकि पहले से ही जो हमने क्लास सेलेक्ट की है उनमें जो डिफरेंसेस हैं एबिलिटीज में, तो चांस एरर इज देयर. हमें नहीं मालूम कि 9th A की जो एबिलिटीज हैं वो ज्यादा हैं, उनकी IQ लेवल ज्यादा है, उनका परफॉर्मेंस ज्यादा, वी डोंट नो अबाउट दैट, बट दैट इज ड्यू टू द चांस एरर. We have selected a wrong class for our experimentation, for our treatment. Then जो हमारे results होंगे वो भी bias, हमारे जो results होंगे वो proper नहीं आने के chances भी होंगे. तो हमारी जो final जो हमारा result होगा वो error के साथ होगा. So probability sampling is done to minimize sampling error, but it is possible that sample may not be representative of the population. Various reasons होते हैं ना, कई बार जैसे हमने सिस्टमैटिक सैम्पलिंग से ही सैंपल लिया तो हम nth टर्म यूज करते हैं. तो हमने जो शुरुआत की हमने माने फर्स्ट इंडिविजुअल से शुरू किया, और बाय चांस ऐसा हुआ कि हर 10th इंडिविजुअल जो हमने सेलेक्ट किया है वो 10th इंडिविजुअल जब हम फाइनली उसको यदि IQ टेस्ट अप्लाई करें या उस पे किसी परफॉर्मेंस टेस्ट अप्लाई करें, all those individuals are having good abilities, all those individuals are having high IQ, so there is a chance of. और इसको हम सैम्पलिंग एरर को डिफाइन कैसे करते हैं? फॉर एग्जांपल, you have selected 10,000 individuals, your population is of 10,000 individuals, and you have selected 400 individuals out of 10,000. Those 400 individuals, mean and SD of those 400 individuals is differing from the another selected 400 individuals. So what we can say, the ST and SD, the ST and we calculate the mean and SD of 400 such individuals. Then finally the differences between the one sample to the another sample is having deviations, having the differences. So what we do here, the mean and SD of a sample deviating from the SD and mean of the population. So here is a chance of sampling errors. For removing the sampling errors, yes, we are coming on the question and answers. So here, for removing the sampling errors, we should select sample through proper procedures. We should select sample by using appropriate sampling techniques, and the sample should be large in number. So by using these using these techniques, we can minimize the sampling errors. So that's all for sampling and the sampling techniques. I thank you all, and now the session is open for question answers. I'm available for your queries. Thank you, Dr. Jha. We can
Thank
have
you,
some
sir.
questions now.
Thank you, Dr. Shirish Pal Singh. I hope there would be very less doubts after the session. However, when I was looking at the YouTube chat, I found many good comments about you, as well as I found many queries as they were developing with your presentation. So we have picked up, our team has picked up few questions, and I would like to pose them on behalf of the participants who are there on the YouTube channel, not on the Zoom.
Okay.
One question has been asked with respect to the sample data. Should sample data be kept confidential? This is asked by Rajesh Doshi.
If you're saying the sample data, it is actually all the research data should be confidential, and it should be used for the research purpose only. So in any data, whatever we are using through the any method or any technique, if we are using any of the method or any of the technique, we should keep our research data as much as confidential possible.
Thank you. There is another question by Pooja Birbitkar. She mentions if sampling frame is not available and the researcher wants to conduct true experimental study, which requires probability sampling, then what should the researcher do?
It is not possible. When sampling frame is not available, you will not be able to conduct a true experimental research because randomization. Even पहली बात तो मैं स्पष्ट कर दूं इनको कि true experimental researches are not feasible and not possible in the behavioral sciences and the social sciences. In physical and other natural sciences it is possible, but in behavioral sciences and social sciences you need to conduct the quasi-experimental researches, or for the quasi-experimental researches you need to follow the purposive sampling technique. You can select the group randomly, but the individuals you will select under that group, that will be of the purposive in nature. So if you are saying that we are not able to randomize, we are not able to do the randomization, so you are not able to do the true experimental researches.
Very correctly. I hope your clarification is acceptable and convince the participant. Sir, with respect to experimental research, there is one more question by Namrata Gogai. She is asking, in experimental research, is it mandatory that the sample size be of the should be same for the experimental group as well as the control group?
No, it is
Should
not.
the sample size be same?
Yeah, it is not necessary. It depends on the group you have selected. For example, आपने एक ग्रुप लिया कि उसमें 50 स्टूडेंट्स हैं, लेकिन दूसरा ग्रुप ऐसा है जहां पर 70 स्टूडेंट्स हैं उस सेम कैटेगरी में, सेम क्लास में, बट you have to conduct experiment on both the group, on one group you are basically doing treatment, on one group you are basically teaching or doing no treatment. So there are difference in the samples, there are difference in the individuals, there are difference in the sample size, but problem is when we do the statistical treatment to that particular sample, we use such techniques that minimize the effect of sample size. For example, we are using like ANCOVA, ANOVA, and some other techniques. So statistically, because वहां पर क्या होता है, we try to find out the adjusted mean and such techniques. तो जो statistically उसको हम control कर लेते हैं sample size में जो differences होता है. तो ये जरूरी नहीं है कि both the groups are having same या similar sample size.
Thank you. Sir, with respect to online sampling, online research, there is a question, and the participant is Manvi Dikshit. She is asking for online survey where a researcher tries to approach all students, but only few participate or respond to the tool. Then what will be the type of sampling technique?
As I have given the example in my discussion, when we are using the online survey, that is basically the convenient sampling. Because in the present condition, like due to this condition and the pandemic condition, Like we are not able to conduct data by going through the visiting their institution, visiting the individuals. So what we are doing basically, we are just creating Google Forms. We are sending to different groups. Then finally, we are collecting data. Those who are able to fill that form, those you have the good rapport with them. Like I'm also doing one research. So then what I did, I just created one Google form and sent to all the individuals. Those are known to me on through WhatsApp. Then they are filling. I'm just calling them, please fill your form, please fill this form, please fill this form. So we are using the convenient sampling technique. So through this online procedure, we can use this convenient sampling technique. Even if you have decided to go for the purposive and some other kind of technique, you have to just clarify your purpose or the reasons for selecting that particular sampling technique.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there are many questions about differences between purposive and random sampling, stratified and cluster sampling, stratified and multi-state sampling. I hope when they again go do the revision of this particular session on the BTTC official channel, they would be revisiting what you said, and that would clarify their doubts. However, to end the question answer session, one last question I'm taking of Priya Patil, and she has asked, how do we know which sampling method we should use?
It depends on the nature of your research. It depends on the nature of your approach. Firstly, your approach. If you are using the quantitative approach, and if you are using the qualitative approach. If you are using quantitative approach, according to method of selection will be different. If you are using the qualitative approach, then a method of selection will be different. Then finally, how many samples you need for that particular research, it depends on that. And finally, what statistical technique you are using for analyzing data, it depends on that also. What sampling technique you are using for your research. So it is your research design, it is your approach, it is your method, and it is your stats on which you have to decide which sampling will be appropriate for my research.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for clarifying all these questions. And with this, I close the question answer session. But I don't close the session. I would like to propose the vote of thanks, the formal vote of thanks.
Before that, I want to say two words to this, to your team, the principal sir, respected principal sir. Thank you so much, sir, for giving me chance to interact with you all. You are Dr. Rajiv Jha, sir, for such a nice convening of this session. Dr. Manisha Tyag is also my known to that college. Thank you to you also, madam. And most humble thanks to the Professor Sefali R. Pandya. She is very respected and very learned professor, I know. So thank you so much, Professor Pandya ma'am, for giving me chance to interact and to make me the part of your Mumbai fraternity. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you, sir, for expressing your thanks and appreciation for the team. Sir, I have been reading a lot of comments on the YouTube channel, and I'm sure afterwards when you visit our channel, you will also be delighted to see the comments. Most of them were very appreciative in different ways. You kept the participants active throughout by your lucid delivery and effective PowerPoint presentation. You made the basic concepts of universe, population, sampling frame, sample, and sampling very clear and understandable. You also dealt with the probability sampling. You illustrated the 5 types: random, systemic, stratified, cluster, and multi-stage, and also the non-probability sampling, the 4 types: purposive, convenient, quota, and snowball techniques. You guided all of us on points to be kept in mind and about the sampling error. Thank you so much, sir, for devoting your time to our national series of seminar. I would not be ending the session and do justice if I don't thank our own team. First, Dr. Bhagwan Balani, the principal of Bombay Teachers Training College, the vice principal, Dr. Mandeep Kocho, and all my dear colleagues of Bombay Teachers Training College, as well as Dr. Shefali Pandya, who is our mentor, a role model, and we always look up to her for any type of request or doubts that we have. She is a teacher of all the teacher educators. She is the head of the Department of Education, and her team of teachers at the Department of Education, University of Mumbai. Thank you so much for collaborating with Bombay Teachers Training College and making this a success. I also thank the members of the technical team, the BIAP, and the students of both the institutions, Bombay Teachers Training College, as well as Department of Education. Without your support and assistance, this would not have been possible. I would be failing if I don't thank the wonderful participants who, by their gracious presence in large numbers, made this webinar series a success. I request you all to submit the feedback form if you have not done so. And I would like the BIP team, the technical team, to flash tomorrow's session. Please share the slide. And I would like to remind all that please be with us tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock for session 8, which is on experimental research. It is by Dr. V.P. Joshi, who is from the Central University of Kerala. With this, I declare the session. Okay. I think the team, they are putting up tomorrow's. Okay, I declare the session as over for today. The meeting is ended. Thank you so much for your presence. Jai Hind, Namaste.